Hello there, my name's Andy McCarron. I'm the Managing Director of SBC. With me today is Stuart Hunter, who's the Managing Director of Clarion Gaming. Hello Stuart, you've got a busy time at the moment.
Hey Andrew, good to be here. Thanks for having us. Totally busy time, but really keen to talk to you about it today. But thanks for having me on.
Obviously, it's been a bit of a tumultuous time. I mean, ICE originally was supposed to happen this week, and with everything that's been going on, you managed to find new dates of the 12th to the 14th of April. Can you give us a bit of context on your approach and considerations for making that move and kind of what the response has been from the industry?
You'll know as much as us, Andrew, in terms of the challenges of operating any kind of live event. Really, certainly over the last 2 years, has become a huge task, really. And I think, probably reaching up until mid-November time, ICE was looking in possibly its sort of best shape, really, that it's ever been in terms of exhibitors were kind of oversubscribed at that point. Registrations were flying really high, and everything was coming together. But obviously, we can look back on the last 6-7 weeks and just see what a difference sort of a new variant's come across. Really, we knew there was always going to be a risk of that happening and impacting. We kind of hoped it wouldn't, but obviously it did. So we had to react pretty quick on that. And I think as a larger organizer, we'd seen what was happening globally and just reached out to our clients as quick as we could, really, and got that feedback. And the feedback was that confidence was kind of diminishing, really, certainly with all the new restrictions coming back into Europe and to the UK. So we made that decision as quickly as we could, which was pre-Christmas. At that stage, in all honesty, and I've told everyone this, we didn't really have an alternative. So it was almost a plea to the market to say, look, okay, we understand February is not going to work now, but just bear with us for a few weeks until we try and find a solution. So that's pretty much was, I think, the 2 weeks before Christmas. So myself, the team, and members of Excel really spent that 2 weeks over Christmas, bar a couple of days of respite, to try and find a solution. At that point, really looking at the calendar of space at Excel, and I think Excel is fairly indicative to the rest of the UK and Europe, to be fair. Most major venues now are operating at capacity this year because live has come back in a big way. So when Excel looked at that schedule or that calendar of where they could pick up and position ICE again or help us to do that, there were at that stage no options. There was a glimmer of an option around this Easter break, which we ended up kind of exploring. And then obviously there were two options we had, which was the week post-Easter and the week pre-Easter, which is the week we've chosen now. The week post-Easter was probably operationally mildly easier, but would have had more impact in terms of the build-up taking place over the entirety of Easter break. And also the Indian Gaming Trade Show in the US is that week. So that would have sat directly across there. And there is at least 25, 30 of our clients that do that show. So that wasn't an ideal scenario. So really we settled with the weeks that we've got, which is the week before. But even to get that, Excel had to work with 6 or 7 other organisers to politely ask or encourage them to migrate their events. And because they're a lot smaller, there was a little bit easier to sort of fit them into the puzzle. So even probably up until the first week of January, really, we still had some hoops to jump through, really, to get that done. But thankfully, Excel were really supportive. They've sort of looked after those other organisers, I should say, in terms of helping them move and migrate their shows. And that enabled us to get those dates, really. So it was difficult. It was really challenging. We were very close to not having a solution, but we found one. But obviously, I'm sure we'll talk about it in a bit. We totally recognise that the solution that we have isn't suitable for everyone. That is regretful, really. But obviously, Omicron is not of our making, and we've had to do the best we can to try and get ICE away this year. So yeah, it's been a challenge.
The fact you've managed to move it at all is quite amazing to me, that you've managed to get an alternative date. What are the current estimates for the attendance for the April dates now?
Yeah, I think, look, when we launched the new April dates, obviously I guess there was mixed feeling, really. There was some relief from parts of the sector, but equally there was a lot of concerns around it being in close proximity to the holiday period. I guess twofold, really. One, from a supplier perspective, in terms of asking teams and staff to break down either close to that Easter break or over that Easter break. And then also an assumption that customers won't come because they'll be holidaying or travelling or whatever over that Easter break. And I think there's probably pockets of all of those things that have been kind of involved in a lot of conversations over the last few weeks. And we understand and respect all of those positions. They are all genuine concerns, or have been concerns for our exhibitor group. I think really what we wanted to do as an organizer is from our perspective, pushing on with ICE really, without having confidence that we will get the buyers to ICE or the attendees to ICE, something that we obviously needed, and we also needed that to sort of showcase that to our customer base. We did a couple of things, which was the week before last, we commissioned Explory to run some independent surveys to our database, just really sort of information gathering, some sentiment gathering about the appetite for the new dates. We also worked with the European Casino Association, who did a very similar survey out to their members. And pretty much they were very similar responses really, which is in and around an average of sort of 75% of respondents were either definitely or highly likely to come to ICE still off the back of the change from February to April, which was good. I think certainly what we've seen as a business, obviously we operate events globally. We do obviously some in the UK, but huge majority outside of the UK. And we're in different other industries and market sectors. What we've probably seen as an average since we've been returning to live, since COVID came around, is probably an average of around about 75% attendance versus pre-COVID, really. But where we've seen that reduction in quantity of people, we've totally either maintained or increased the quality. And I think certainly the survey that we commissioned also did that. I think of those coming, it was almost close to 80% were either the prime decision maker or part of the influential decision making process. So the evidence suggests, I guess, at that stage that a good volume of attendees were committed to it. And if you bear in mind, quite a lot of those respondents were outside of the UK, Europe and rest of the world, and the current conditions outside of the UK are obviously still fairly treacherous in terms of COVID. So I would only assume that would kind of increase as those COVID situations improve, as they have done here in the UK. So that was the evidence we need really, and obviously we've done our best to share that with the industry. What we can't do is those deep dive qualitative conversations that some of the suppliers have had with their customers, and if the thought has been for a few of them that it will be too big a risk in terms of some of their customers travelling, either because of the Easter break or because of COVID still, then I guess that's what they've shared with us. But I still think we're in a very strong position really to get that quality audience, and where there may well be operators that are sending maybe fewer people than they already have done, they're sending their top team, their big decision makers. So in some respects, it'll become, I think, a bit more of an express conversation on site at ICE this year, straight to that decision making, rather than kind of relying on that volume really, and kind of working your way through the volume to find that decision maker. So that's what we're hoping. That's certainly what we saw in IGB Live at Amsterdam that we hosted last autumn. Been some of the highest satisfaction scores we've ever had, actually, not just in gaming, but as the rest of Clarion. So I'm sure you've probably seen that with the live shows that you've run since COVID, really. It's been more about quality than quantity, which I think is a good indictment of that return to live.
We've run quite a few events at the back end of last year, and people were looking forward to coming back and seeing people face to face after so long out. I mean, ICE as it stands in April will still be the biggest gaming event for over 2 years. Have you changed kind of your advice about what exhibitors should expect from ICE this year? When
I joined the ICE team, I think we'd always been sort of sharing in terms of the headline stats of attendance, but we've never probably gone to a deeper level. So we've got much more analytics than we used to have, probably even since we've run the last ICE show. So the information that we've got in terms of who's coming and why they're coming and what their kind of buying requirements are, we've got that information, and we're totally really happy to share it with our clients and customers. So I think we're at that stage now where we're kind of are starting to share that. We've shared obviously the survey results with them in general. We'll start to break down a little bit more detail in terms of who's now registering. And actually another good thing is for those that registered pre-ICE, we've obviously given them plenty of opportunities to politely say, look, I can no longer come, and we've not had much fallout from that at all, really, which I think is a strong sign. So we're about to launch our My Ice Gateway, which is kind of our networking tool, something we haven't had before on ICE. That's where the attendees can start to engage with the exhibitors in advance. So that will give us more indication of who's available, who's around, and what they're looking for. So we continually share all the information we can with our exhibitor base to kind of give them that direction. I think one thing we've got to be cognizant of, obviously, since we did those surveys, there has been, as everyone probably would have read, quite a lot of postponements, certainly from the bigger land-based suppliers at ICE. So we were very conscious of thinking, okay, will that now affect people's appetite to attend ICE? If the likes of Novomatic and McCarron and some of our other larger brands aren't there, and you would ordinarily assume that probably would, but we've already started to do some qualitative research with that buyer group as well, just to really kind of find out, because if that is the case, we want to manage expectations as well. But I guess we're still working through that at the moment. But just to give you a bit of kind of data from a conversation I had from a European casino operator last week, very much their opinion is that it is obviously regretful that they won't see some of those brands at ICE, but actually in some respects it's going to give their team more time to explore the variety that's available at ICE, to engage in more of the content, to kind of have a bit more of a expansive experience, whereas they would have had several meetings in terms of taking their time. So obviously they will miss that element of the ICE experience, but that it's not, and this is obviously voice of one casino, but it's not detracting their interest or their motivation to come to ICE. It'll just perhaps change how they engage on that day. So that was good to hear. We're doing more of that because we really want to get scientific about it. Obviously, with live, certainly your comments about it being the biggest gaming show, that's correct. But none of us want to be there opening ICE and kind of and not seeing it busy and full of the right people. So that's pretty much what's driving our pulse every day, really, engaging with that buyer base, really kind of looking at those challenges they've got around COVID or the perception. And I think there is a real perception that the UK is still in a challenging position, which, I know you're up in Manchester, I'm just outside of London. It's certainly not. There is plenty of COVID around, as there is everywhere, but it's mild and everyone's adapting to it now. The restrictions are being reduced. So I think by April time, the conditions will be absolutely perfect for travel into London. So look, we're just constantly on it the whole time. It is 24/7 at the moment, and as much information as we get, we're just sharing with our exhibitor base, because the more informed they are, the better they can make some decisions about how they adapt or change or prepare for their time at ICE.
It's interesting saying you've got anecdotal evidence of land-based casino buyers still coming over, even without those big hitters, as you say, because obviously the thing that makes ICE is its international audience. What kind of steps have you taken to sort of make sure that international travel is as fluid and as simple to understand? Is it an education process and making it life as easy as possible for people who do have to come in and perhaps jump through some hoops? We
certainly have had that challenge when we were preparing for IGB Live in Amsterdam. I think because we have people coming from, and I think for ICE, I think it's over 70, 80 different countries that our attendance stem from. So everyone has their own perception of what traveling is going to be like. They might have different restrictions depending on where they're coming from. But I think, as you would have read over the last week or so, I think from February the 11th, the government's made it a lot easier now. There's no testing required on entry, and all those other additional restrictions they put in pre-Christmas are now gone, which is great. And I'm fairly certain they won't be coming back. We always have a page that's constantly updated on the website, which gives everyone that up-to-date information. We've got a customer service / success team that is handling with lots of queries, etc. So as long as we can get people in and help them and give them guidance, and I think we're sending them to all the right locations in terms of what they need to do to prepare. The gateway that we're launching will also have advice on that. But it is much easier to come into the UK now than it was over the last few weeks and months, which is great. And then I think once you're in the UK, as you said, most of our restrictions are gone now. Masks will be going soon. We are still operating under what we refer to as the all secure standards, which I'm sure you guys at SBC would have been part of, but it's the UK exhibition industry working in alliance with the UK government to ensure that every live engagement follows a very robust style of kind of health and safety measures. So we're still operating that at XL. At this current stage, that requires testing or proof of vaccination to enter. Obviously, we'll put that under review as things improve towards April. If we have some improvement by April, then obviously things like that will start to lift. It's a balance, really, of making sure that there's enough robust measures in to give confidence, but not too many that it inhibits business. So I think where it is at the moment, it's sort of nice. It's got that nice angle. But if we can make any reduction of those going forward, then obviously we will do, just to make it even more accessible for everyone.
It's 100% that ICE is still going ahead, obviously.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think it was even something that we made a comment last week where we made a statement around, subject to natural disaster, ICE is going ahead. And I think we've had some people saying, well, is there going to be a natural disaster? Is that ICE is 100% going ahead? Obviously, our decision making is based on our customers. And obviously, there are 25, probably 30 customers at the moment out of 550 odd, or about 520 or so, that have either cancelled or are kind of in that process of working that through. Most of the names that are of that list, you know about, it's been in the media, and they tend to be sort of the larger predominantly land-based suppliers. Obviously, we're really sad that they won't be with us, but we totally respect why they've made those decisions, and we support them, and we're looking after them. And all of them are committed for 23, so it will be back to a full-sized ICE business as usual for next year. But right now our focus is on the remaining sort of, over 450, 460 businesses, predominantly some of them, quite a lot of SMEs in there that rely on ICE to happen. So, we are focused on doing it for them. I think if they told us and the buyers told us that they didn't want ICE this year, then we wouldn't have pushed on. But they're not saying that. They are supporting in the vast majority, both the buyer base and the exhibitor base. So from our perspective, it is full steam ahead. ICE will be a bit different. I think people ask, will it be much, much smaller?
Well, everyone said it was too big anyway.
It's one of those things so you can never win on that side. But I think it was more than likely going to be about the same size that it was in 2020, which was the last show we ran just before everything locked down in the UK. So that was a relief that we could get that through. But I think that now probably it may well be about 80% of a normal ICE. What we're seeing is some of those spaces that have been relinquished by some of the bigger brands, they are being taken by some either existing brands or some new brands, giving them an opportunity, because they've always, there's lots of ambition, I guess, within ICE to kind of grow or to bring some new products or to kind of just, show a different range. So, we whilst we're conscious of making the show not too big, so it feels too expansive in the current climate, but obviously at the same point not restricting any of our other brands' creativity. So there are brands taking some of the spaces that have been relinquished. But I would guess at this stage probably about an 80%, maybe 75, 80% normal size ICE show. Still big, but a little bit smaller than normal.
Yeah, so obviously it's going to be a bit of a different experience, but it was always going to be post-COVID anyway. First ICE under the new leadership team of basically you and Alex Pratt leading the way. I mean, what's your strategic vision for the evolution of the show?
God, that's a deep question, Andrew. I think look, from our perspective, when Alex and I have been working together for about 3 years now, Alex, as you all know, obviously has a long history in the iGaming side of the industry, joined Clarion with the IGB brand. I haven't. I've obviously been working in the gaming industry for the last 3 years, but prior to that, been at Clarion in various other sectors doing similar roles, really. So very experienced in terms of delivering large-scale events, but I've been on a steep learning curve over the last 3 years in the gaming industry, and I think what's fascinating about it is that kind of creativity, is that focus on tech and innovation, and I think really that is something that Alex and I have really kind of tried to put at the forefront of our decision-making. What we're excited about showing the industry is what we've done with ICE and to ICE, and we've held on to all the DNA, all the component parts of ICE, which everyone knows and hopefully loves. But we try to extend it and expand it in terms of investing in the look and feel of the show. We in some respects, as an organizer, have been outdone by our exhibitors, because the exhibiting investment is unbelievable, and everyone that comes to ICE will see the huge investment and how impressive those visuals are. But my viewpoint was that we need to start to catch up in terms of other areas of the show, the arrival experience, the feature areas, etc. So we've done a lot around that to kind of elevate that experience. To not only remind people what they've been missing at ICE, but to remind them, the value of face-to-face and how good it feels to be together in an event, really. So that's been a big part of it. You'll know this massively, but the live events industry has been talking about hybrid really ever since ever since the world shut down and everyone sort of flipped to Zoom and Teams calls for a while. So we've kind of invested and built an ICE 365 news studio at ICE this year, which is almost going to be our kind of the equivalent of, say, like the NBC News Desk, really, where we're kind of live broadcasting out to the global industry, but also a place which is creating a real hub of activity and information and interviews and everything that's exciting that's happening at ICE in one area, really. So that's a new proposition that we're launching out, and that will also allow people that aren't able to attend ICE for varying reasons to get a glimpse of it, to get a snapshot of what's happening, to engage with some content, but also to kind of interact. So there's a lot of evolution that we've put into ICE this year, and we're keen for everyone to see it, really, to show that, not only have we been trying as an organising team to get back to ICE as soon as we can, but we haven't rested at that. We've unearthed every stone and looked at ways we can develop and improve the product and support our industry with the ICE Charter that we launched recently around saving the money in terms of the operational costs, etc. So that's been a big part of it, really, is getting the industry back together. We hoped everyone would be with us this year. COVID has obviously put a bit of a spanner in the works to that, but certainly, we will do our best to deliver a really exciting ICE experience in April for a big part of the industry. And then obviously we look forward to grabbing hold of that for a stage 2 and getting everybody else back in 23. For us and Alex, really this last year or two and going forward is really about our customer, getting to know them better, really understanding what they use ICE for, what they need ICE for, and making sure that we deliver on that going forward, really.
I mean, you talk about ICE supporting the industry in that way. How much should the industry also be supporting ICE as its flagship global event?
It's a good question. Obviously, the last few weeks, I think the media has been dominated a little bit with some of the postponements out of ICE for some of the bigger brands, and that tends to kind of be the leading message. And I think what we're really keen to do now is and what we will be doing over the next sort of week or so is showcasing all the exciting brands that are totally committed to ICE this year. They've got a lot to say. They're really passionate about being there. They're telling us they need ICE to happen. Some of these companies haven't generated new business for a year or two since ICE. They rely on ICE as that platform to do it. So that's why Alex and I are very conscious that we have an element of a duty of care to get the position and provide this platform again, because it'll be a long wait until next February. So I think really we want to grab hold of that, really remind everybody who's going to be at ICE, who's making exciting noises at ICE, who's taking more space, who's launching new products, who's creating new experiences, and even some of the land-based customers that you've seen in the media that are postponing, they're still retaining some really exciting sponsorship experiences at ICE. So whereas maybe a couple of the big stands aren't going to be there, their brand's going to have a presence and there's going to be some really nice interactions happening. So we want to scream loud about that. We've been talking up until now very much about that emotive element of being back together and reuniting the industry and using it as a launch pad moving forward. But now we really want to get scientific and start to showcase, who's there, what does the floor plan look like? Because everyone's asking that. They're expecting it to be, hugely different to what it was with some of these reductions. But showcasing that, showcasing the technology that's being launched, and really reminding everyone that it's really easy to fly into London at the moment. I appreciate there's challenges and it's not for everyone in terms of that nervousness around COVID. But if you can make it in, it will be a really valuable experience to be in London. Obviously, everyone knows that it's a load of fun. But if it can be really valuable and you can see and engage in something, even if some of those lead brands that you would ordinarily meet, you won't meet this time round, but there's still loads to be had, loads to gain, loads of insight, loads of opportunity to be had. And we really want to kind of foster that. So that's going to be our messaging over the next few weeks. A lot of the exhibitors will be doing the same thing as well, just showcasing what they're presenting. And I think, obviously, we want as much support for that as we can, really, because the vast majority of people we speak to want and need ICE to happen. And I think we need to kind of really kind of work together to help everyone feel confident about being there.
I mean, I know some of the extracurricular activities, some of them are happening in certain different ways, but we're still doing our London Baby event. We're going to hold that at the Natural History Museum this year, so that's the biggest event we've ever held there. We're anticipating good numbers just from our network to be there as well. So, Stuart, good luck with it, and I hope to see you all in April.
Yeah, totally. Really appreciate it. I know you guys have the same challenges in terms of being in the space and being another lead organizer. So it's good to have the opportunity to share that with you today. And here to support you. And thanks for your support for ICE. And we'll see you in April.